My parents always joked I wasn't their real kid. I returned the favor at their anniversary party. Growing up, my parents thought it was funny. Every time I did something they didn't like, my dad would laugh and say, "Must have switched babies at the hospital." When I got a B instead of an A, my mom would joke, "Are you sure you're ours?" At family dinners, when I'd argue or disagree, my dad would turn to my mom and say, "See, this is what happens when you don't check the hospital bracelet." My older sister Natalie never got these jokes. She was the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect behavior, perfect everything. I was the one who asked too many questions, who didn't quite fit the family mold. By the time I turned 16, the jokes had worn me down. I started wondering if maybe there was some truth buried in their humor. But whenever I'd ask seriously if I was adopted, they'd laugh even harder and tell me to stop being so sensitive. I was 23 when I found the box in their attic. I'd come home for the holidays and mom asked me to grab the Christmas decorations from storage. Behind the boxes of ornaments, I found an old shoebox with my dad's handwriting on it. Hospital records, do not open. Inside were documents from St. Mary's Hospital dated March 1985, my birth month. But the papers were weird. There were 2 sets of infant footprints, 2 hospital bracelets, 2 birth certificates with different names but same date, same time, same hospital. I took photos of everything with my phone, put the box back exactly where I'd found it, and spent the next 3 months trying to make sense of it. I ordered my own birth certificate from the state. The one I got back matched one of the certificates in that box. But who did the other one belong to? I started watching my parents differently. The way my mom's face would change when old friends visited, how my dad would steer conversations away whenever anyone mentioned the year I was born. My Aunt Rachel stopped coming to family events around the time I turned 5, and nobody ever explained why. I called Rachel. She lived 2 states away and we hadn't spoken in years. When I asked her about 1985, about the hospital, about me, she went completely silent. Then she said, "Your father made me promise I'd never tell you." She hung up before I could ask anything else. My parents' 40th anniversary party was planned for June. Big event, country club, 150 guests. Natalie was organizing everything, and she kept asking me to help with the photo slideshow. She wanted baby pictures, childhood photos, the whole family history on display. That's when I noticed something else. In every single photo from my first year of life, I was alone. No hospital photos with both parents. No pictures of mom holding me as a newborn. Nothing from the first 3 months, but I found other photos. Hidden in an album in my dad's office. Photos of my parents holding a different baby. A baby that looked exactly like Natalie, in the same hospital. On the same day I was supposedly born, I confronted Natalie first, showed her the photos, the documents, everything. She stared at them for a long time, then looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. "I always wondered why they treated you differently," she said. The anniversary party was perfect. Beautiful decorations, champagne, speeches about eternal love. When it was my turn to make a toast, I stood up with my glass and smiled at my parents sitting at the head table. "Mom, Dad, congratulations on 40 years together. You've always joked that I wasn't really your kid, that you must have gotten the wrong baby at the hospital." The room laughed. My dad grinned, raising his glass. "Well, I found the box in the attic. I found the photos. I talked to Aunt Rachel." My mom's face went white. "So let me clear something up for everyone here." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the projector screen. The hospital documents appeared, blown up for everyone to see. "You didn't get the wrong baby. You made a choice." I looked at my sister, then back at my parents. And what happened next changed everything. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. The room freezes. My words hang in the air like smoke, refusing to dissipate. For 3 heartbeats, there's absolute silence, the kind that feels like a physical weight pressing down on everyone's shoulders. Then chaos erupts. Dad lunges toward the projector, his face contorted in a way I've never seen before, raw panic mixed with rage. "Turn that off!" he shouts, but his voice cracks in the middle, betraying his terror. Mom's hand flies to her mouth, her face draining of color so quickly I think she might faint. Instead, she collapses into her chair, her shoulders beginning to shake with silent sobs. The guests, all 150 of them, start whispering, their hushed voices creating a wave of sound that sweeps across the country club ballroom. I hear fragments. What's happening? Did he just say, "Those documents look official"? Always thought something was off about. Natalie appears at my side, her fingers digging into my arm with surprising strength. Her mouth is close to my ear, her voice barely audible. "They switched you with another baby," she whispers, her words confirming what I've suspected for months. "I didn't know until you showed me the photos. I swear I didn't know before." Dad reaches the projector, yanking cords out with trembling hands. The screen goes black, but it's too late. Everyone has seen enough. The damage is done. "The party is over," Dad announces, his voice booming with forced authority. "Thank you all for coming, but we need to attend to a family matter. Please everyone, leave now." The guests exchange uncomfortable glances. No one moves at first, as if they're watching the climax of a play they've paid good money to see. Mom's sobs grow louder, no longer silent, and the raw sound of her grief seems to break the spell. People begin gathering purses and jackets, murmuring awkward goodbyes. I stand rooted to the spot, my phone still in my hand, watching as 40 years of my parents' carefully constructed life crumbles around them. I should feel triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I feel hollow, like I've set fire to my own home just to prove it could burn. As the crowd thins, a familiar figure approaches. Aunt Rachel, who I haven't seen in person since I was 5 years old. She looks older, of course, but her eyes are exactly as I remember them, kind but sad, like she's carrying a weight no one else can see. She walks straight past my father, who's busy ushering people toward the exit, and comes to stand in front of me. "I warned them this day would come," she says, loud enough for my parents to hear. 18 years ago, I told them the truth would find its way out. It always does." Dad spins around, his face flushed with anger. "Get out, Rachel," he spits. "You've done enough damage. You promised." "I promised I wouldn't tell," she interrupts, her voice steady. "And I didn't. But I never promised to help you keep lying when the truth was discovered on its own. Leave, now." Dad points to the door, his finger shaking. "Or I swear to God." "What?" Rachel challenges. "What will you do exactly? Haven't you done enough?" Mom's crying has quieted to hiccuping sobs. She looks looks up, her makeup streaked down her face. Please, Rachel, she whispers, not like this. Something passes between the sisters, an entire conversation in a single look. Rachel sighs, then turns back to me. Call me tomorrow, she says, pressing a business card into my palm. I'll tell you everything they won't. Dad starts toward us, but Rachel is already walking away, her back straight and her head high. She's the last guest to leave, the heavy door closing behind her with a final sounding thud. And then it's just the four of us in the cavernous ballroom. Mom, still seated, looking smaller than I've ever seen her. Dad, standing by the door, his chest heaving with barely controlled emotion. Natalie, beside me, her hand still gripping my arm like she's afraid I might disappear. And me, standing in the center of it all, feeling like I've just detonated a bomb I didn't fully understand. The silence stretches, thick and suffocating. Champagne glasses still half full on abandoned tables. The anniversary cake, untouched, its white frosting gleaming under the chandeliers. A banner reading 40 Years of Love hanging crookedly from one corner where someone bumped into it during their hasty exit. Why? The question comes out before I can stop it. Why did you make it a joke? All these years, why did you turn it into something to laugh about? Dad runs a hand over his face. For the first time in my life, he looks old, truly old and afraid. We need to go home, he says, ignoring my question. We can't do this here. No, I say, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. I've spent my whole life feeling like I didn't belong, like I was some cosmic mistake. You made me think I was crazy for feeling different. I want answers. Now. Mom looks up, her face ravaged by tears. We love you, she whispers. We've always loved you. Please believe that, if nothing else. Love? I laugh, and the sound is harsh even to my own ears. Is that what you call it? Making me the punchline of a family joke my entire life? Natalie's grip on my arm tightens. Let's go home, she says quietly. All of us. We need to talk about this somewhere private. I look around at the empty ballroom, at the evidence of a celebration turned disaster. 40 years of marriage, and all it took was one moment of truth to shatter the foundation. I wonder how many other secrets are buried beneath the surface of our family, waiting to be unearthed. Fine, I say finally. Home, but I want everything, the whole truth. Dad nods, a small, defeated gesture that tells me more than words ever could. Whatever happened in that hospital in March 1985, whatever choice they made, the time for jokes and deflection is over. The truth, after 23 years, is finally coming out. The ride home is the longest 20 minutes of my life. Dad drives, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, while Mom stares out the passenger window, her shoulders still shaking occasionally. Natalie and I sit in the back like children being taken home from a failed school play. No one speaks. The only sound is the occasional sniffle from Mom and the hum of tires on asphalt. When we pull into the driveway, Dad kills the engine but doesn't move. For a moment, we all sit frozen in the car, as if stepping out would force us to face what comes next. Finally, Dad sighs a deep, bone-weary sound and opens his door. Inside, he says, not a request, a command. The house feels different somehow, like I'm seeing it through new eyes. The family photos on the walls, the worn couch where we've had movie nights, the kitchen table where we've shared thousands of meals. It all feels like a stage set now. Props for a play about a normal family. Dad pours himself a whiskey without offering anyone else a drink. Mom sinks into her usual armchair, looking small and fragile. Natalie hovers near the doorway, as if unsure whether to stay or go. Sit down, Dad says, gesturing to the couch with his glass. I remain standing. Tell me everything, I demand. No more lies. Dad takes a long swallow of whiskey, wincing as it goes down. It was March 1985, he begins, his voice rough. St. Mary's Hospital was overcrowded that week. There had been some kind of flu outbreak, and they were short-staffed. Mom makes a small noise, almost a whimper. Dad glances at her, then continues. There was another family there the same night, the Collins family. They had identical twin girls. The name sends a jolt through me. Collins. I have a name now, half of my identity that's been hidden from me for 23 years. Identical twins? I repeat, trying to process this. So I have a twin sister? Dad nods, looking down at his drink. Yes, Emma Collins, your biological twin. The room spins slightly. A twin, someone who looks exactly like me, who shares my DNA, who was supposed to grow up alongside me. What happened? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad takes another drink, larger this time. About 3 weeks after you were both born, one of the twins died. Sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. It's when a baby just stops breathing in their sleep. No warning, no explanation. I don't understand, I say, though a terrible suspicion is forming. What does this have to do with me? Mom speaks for the first time since we left the country club. We had you, she says, her voice cracking. We brought you home. We loved you from the moment we saw you. Mom, Natalie interrupts, her face pale. Just tell the truth, all of it. Dad sets his glass down with a sharp click. I was reviewing the hospital paperwork a few months after you were born, insurance forms, birth records, and I noticed discrepancies. The blood type didn't match what they had recorded during prenatal visits. There were other little things that didn't add up. You were switched, Natalie says bluntly when Dad pauses. At the hospital, they gave Mom and Dad one of the Collins twins by mistake. The floor seems to drop out from under me. I grab the back of a chair to steady myself. So, when the Collins baby died, it wasn't their child, Dad finishes. It was ours, our biological daughter, the baby we thought we brought home. I feel sick. And I was. You were the other twin, Mom says, tears streaming down her face. By the time we figured it out, you were already 4 months old. We had already bonded with you. We already loved you. So you just kept me? I ask incredulously. You stole me from my real parents? Dad slams his hand on the table. We are your real parents. We raised you. We loved you. We gave you everything. Except the truth, I shout back. And what about my biological parents? They lost a child and never knew their other daughter was still alive. We made a choice, Dad says, his voice dropping. The hospital administrator. I paid him to falsify some records, to make it look like everything was in order. He's retired now, probably in Florida somewhere. The casual way he describes the corruption makes my stomach turn. So you committed fraud. You participated in a cover-up. We did what we thought was best, Mom pleads. We couldn't bear to lose you. And the Collins family, they were already grieving one child. We thought it would be cruel to disrupt their healing by telling them about the mix-up. Cruel? I laugh bitterly. You thought it would be cruel to tell them their daughter was still alive? It wasn't that simple, Dad insists. There would have been investigations, legal battles. No one would have won. I need to know who they are, I say firmly. I need to know about my biological family, the Collins family. Dad shakes his head. No, absolutely not. Opening this door now would only hurt everyone involved. It's my life, I shout, fury rising in me. My identity. You've hidden it from me for 23 years, and now you want to keep hiding it? It's for the best, Mom says softly. Please try to understand. I look at them, these people who raised me, who claim to love me, who turned my existence into a running joke to deflect from their guilt, and I feel nothing but betrayal. I'm calling Aunt Rachel, I say, pulling out my phone and the business card she gave me. Dad lunges forward. Don't you dare! Natalie steps between us. Dad, stop. Haven't you done enough? The look Dad gives her is one of pure betrayal, but he backs down, collapsing into a chair. I walk to the kitchen for privacy and dial Rachel's number. She answers on the second ring, as if she's been waiting for my call. They told you? She asks without preamble. Some of it, I reply. Not enough. I need to know about the Collins family. Dad refuses to tell me. There's a long pause. I can hear Rachel breathing on the other end of the line. They still live in Ridgeview, she finally says. About 20 minutes from you. The father, Michael, teaches at the community college. The mother, Diana, runs a small bookstore downtown. And Emma looks exactly like you. I've seen her around town over the years. It's uncanny. My heart races. They're so close. All this time, my biological family has been living just minutes away. Thank you, I whisper into the phone. Be careful, Rachel warns. This truth, it's going to hurt a lot of people, including you. I hang up and return to the living room, where my parents, the people who raised me, wait with apprehension written across their faces. The Collins family is in Ridgeview, I announce, and I'm going to find them. The color drains from Dad's face. Mom begins to sob again. And Natalie, my sister who isn't actually my sister, reaches for my hand. Whatever you decide to do, she says quietly, I'm with you. I look around at this family that has been mine for 23 years, and I realize that nothing will ever be the same again. The jokes, the little comments about not being their real child, they weren't jokes at all. They were the truth slipping out, a truth too heavy to stay buried forever. And now that it's free, the Collins family, my biological family, the thought keeps spinning through my head as I stare at my laptop screen, my finger hovering over the search button. It's been 2 days since the anniversary party disaster, and I haven't spoken to my parents, no, the people who raised me since I walked out of the house that night. I've been staying at Natalie's apartment, sleeping on her couch and trying to process everything. She's been surprisingly supportive, considering her entire understanding of our family has been upended too. Are you sure you want to do this? Natalie asks, setting a mug of coffee beside me. She's watching me with concern, the same expression she's worn since the night everything fell apart. I need to know, I say simply. I type Collins Family Ridgeview into the search bar and hit enter. Several results pop up, but one immediately catches my eye, a Facebook profile for Emma Collins, Ridgeview Community College. My heart hammers against my ribs as I click on it, and then I'm staring at my own face. Holy shit, Natalie whispers, leaning over my shoulder. She looks exactly like you. It's uncanny. Emma Collins has the same eyes, the same nose, the same dimple in her left cheek when she smiles. Her hair is longer than mine and a shade lighter, but otherwise, we could be the same person. In her profile picture, she's standing next to an older woman, presumably Diana Collins, my biological mother who has the same eyes as both of us. What are you going to do? Natalie asks. I take a deep breath. I'm going to message her. My hands shake as I type out a simple message. Hi Emma, my name is my name, and I think we might be related. This is going to sound crazy, but I recently discovered some information about my birth that suggests we might be twins. I'd really like to talk to you if you're willing. I hit send before I can second guess myself. Now we wait, I say, closing the laptop, but I don't have to wait long. Less than 20 minutes later, my phone pings with a Facebook notification. Emma Collins has responded. Who is this? Is this some kind of sick joke? My stomach drops. I hadn't considered how this would sound to her, a stranger claiming to be her twin. I quickly type back. I promise this isn't a joke. I found hospital records from Street Mary's in March 1985. I was raised by the my last name family, but I have reason to believe I'm actually a Collins. I know this sounds insane. 3 dots appear, disappear, then appear again. Finally, don't contact me or my family again. She blocked me, I tell Natalie, showing her my phone. I should have been more careful about how I approach this. Maybe try contacting the parents, Natalie suggests. They might be more willing to listen. After more searching, I find a listing for Diana Collins, proprietor, at a bookstore called Turning Pages in downtown Ridgeview. There's a phone number listed. With trembling fingers, I dial. Turning Pages, this is Diana, answers a warm, slightly husky voice that sends chills down my spine. Hi, my name is... I start, but my voice cracks. I clear my throat. I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to speak with you about something important. Something about Street Mary's Hospital in March 1985. The silence that follows is so complete I think she might have hung up. Who is this? She finally asks, her voice now tight with tension. My name, I believe. I have reason to think I might be your daughter, your other daughter, Emma's twin. I hear a sharp intake of breath, then muffled sounds like she's covered the receiver with her hand. When she comes back, her voice is shaking. We don't know who put you up to this, but this is cruel. Our daughter died. We buried her. Please don't call again. Wait, I cry out. I have hospital records, 2 sets of footprints, 2 birth certificates, all from the same date and time. Please, just meet with me. Let me show you. Another long pause. Michael, she calls away from the phone. Michael, you need to take this call. There's shuffling, and then a man's voice comes on the line. This is Michael Collins. Whatever scam you're running. It's not a scam, I interrupt desperately. I found documents in my parents' attic. There was a mix-up at the hospital. The baby that died, it wasn't yours. It was my last name's daughter. I'm your daughter Emma's identical twin. This is impossible, he says, but there's uncertainty in his voice now. Our daughter died of SIDS. We buried her. Please, I beg, just one meeting. I'll bring everything I have. If you still think I'm lying, I'll never contact you again. I can hear them conferring in hushed tones. Finally, Michael comes back on the line. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. The bookstore will be closed for inventory. Come alone. The next morning, I stand outside turning pages, clutching a folder containing copies of everything I found in the attic. Natalie dropped me off with a tight hug and a promise to pick me up in an hour. The closed sign hangs in the window, but when I knock, a man in his early 60s opens the door. Michael Collins has gray hair and glasses, but I can see Emma in the shape of his face, the set of his jaw. Come in, he says stiffly. Inside, a woman stands behind the counter, her hands gripping the edge so tightly her knuckles are white. Diana Collins looks like an older version of Emma of me. Her eyes widen as I step into the light. Oh my God, she whispers. Michael, let's see what she has, Michael says, gesturing to a small table in the corner of the store. I spread out the documents, the hospital records, the footprints, the birth certificates. I explain everything I've learned, how my parents made jokes my entire life about me not being theirs, how I found the box in the attic, how they finally admitted the truth after the anniversary party. Diana keeps staring at me, tears streaming down her face. You look exactly like her, she says softly. Exactly like Emma. We saw you, Michael says suddenly. Around town. Over the years, Diana always said there was a girl who looked like Emma. I told her she was imagining things, that grief was playing tricks on her. I knew, Diana whispers. A mother knows. I felt it here. She presses a hand to her heart. The bell above the door jingles, and we all turn. Emma stands in the doorway, her eyes locked on me. I had to come, she says, her voice identical to mine. I couldn't stay away after Dad called. She walks toward me slowly, like she's approaching a wild animal that might bolt. My whole life, she says, I felt like part of me was missing, like I had a phantom limb. I used to dream about a sister who looked just like me. Twins often report feeling that connection, Michael says quietly, even when separated at birth. Emma reaches out and touches my face, her fingers tracing the same path mine would if I were touching my own reflection. It's really you, she whispers. The moment is shattered by the sound of screeching tires outside. I turn to see my parents' car pulling up haphazardly to the curb. Dad jumps out, followed by Mom. How did they find me? I ask, panic rising in my throat. Your phone, Natalie says, hurrying in behind them. I'm so sorry. Dad installed a tracking app on all our phones years ago. I didn't think about it until Mom called asking where you were. My parents burst into the bookstore, Dad leading the charge. He stops short when he sees the Collins family gathered around me. You had no right, he says, his voice shaking with anger. No right to come here and disrupt their lives. Disrupt our lives? Michael steps forward, his face flushing. You stole our daughter and let us believe she was dead for 23 years. We didn't steal anyone, Mom cries. We didn't know at first. And when we found out, you should have told us, Diana shouts, years of grief suddenly transforming into rage. We buried an empty casket. We've lived with that pain every day while you raised our child. She's our child, Dad roars back. We raised her. We loved her. What was I supposed to do? The hospital called us in after your baby died. They said there had been a mix-up, that the babies had been switched accidentally at birth. They actually suggested that since you'd already lost one child, it would be kinder not to tell you about the switch, to let you grieve one loss instead of compounding it with confusion. The room falls silent. Emma grabs my hand, squeezing it tightly. The hospital suggested this? Michael asks incredulously. They advised you to perpetuate this lie? The administrator said it would be best for everyone, Mom says, her voice small. He said there would be lawsuits, investigations, that it would only cause more pain. We believed him. We wanted to believe him because we couldn't bear to lose her. She looks at me, tears streaming down her face. We already loved her so much. So you made it a joke? I ask, the question that's been burning inside me for days. You spent my entire life joking about me not being yours. Why would you do that? Dad's shoulders slump. Because the guilt was eating us alive, he admits. It was like a pressure valve. Every time we made that stupid joke, it was like releasing a little bit of the truth we couldn't bear to fully face. Diana steps forward, her eyes hard. I want a DNA test, she says firmly. And then I want to talk to a lawyer. Of course, Michael adds. We need to know exactly what happened at that hospital. Who made these decisions? Who falsified records? I look between these two sets of parents, one who raised me, one who lost me, and feel torn in half. Emma's hand in mine is the only thing keeping me anchored. I want that too, I say quietly. I want the truth, all of it. The room falls silent as we all stand there. Two families shattered and reformed by a hospital mix-up 23 years ago, each trying to claim the same person as their own. And I'm caught in the middle, finally understanding why I've always felt like I didn't quite belong. I am both a my last name and a Collins. Both and neither at the same time. And nothing will ever be the same again. The DNA test results arrive via email on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after the confrontation at Turning Pages. I'm sitting on the couch in my new apartment, a small one-bedroom I found near the community college, when my phone pings with the notification. Is that it? Emma asks from the kitchen, where she's making us coffee. She spent nearly every day with me since we met, both of us hungry for the connection we were denied for 23 years. Yeah, I say, my finger hovering over the email. I'm scared to open it. Emma sets the mugs down and sits beside me, her shoulder pressing against mine. It's still jarring to see my own face mirrored back at me, like looking into a slightly altered reflection. We already know what it's going to say, she says softly. Look at us. She's right. The resemblance is undeniable, but there's something about official confirmation that makes this all real, in a way it hasn't been before. I tap the email, and we read the results together. The clinical language does nothing to soften the impact. 99.9% probability of identical twin match. DNA markers consistent with monozygotic twins. No possibility of error. Well, Emma says with a small laugh, I guess we can stop saying biological sister now. Just sister. I nod, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Sister. After 23 years of jokes about not belonging, I now have proof of exactly where I do belong and where I don't. My phone rings. It's Michael, my biological father. I still can't bring myself to call him Dad. You got the results? He asks when I answer. Yes, just now. Diana's with the lawyer, he says. His voice sounds tired, worn down by 3 weeks of emotional upheaval. They want to talk to you about next steps. Next steps. The phrase sounds so clinical for something so messy. The Collins family has has been meeting with lawyers, discussing potential legal action against St. Mary's Hospital and my parents. The statute of limitations has expired on many possible charges, but there are still questions of civil liability, of fraud, of ethical violations by medical professionals. I'll come by this afternoon, I promise. After hanging up, I check my other messages. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Dad, and a text from Natalie. Parents freaking out about news vans. Call me. News vans? Emma reads over my shoulder. What news vans? I quickly search local news on my phone and my stomach drops. The top story on the Ridgeview Herald's website: local families rocked by hospital baby switch scandal. Oh no, I whisper. The article details everything: the hospital mix-up, the Sid's death, the cover-up, the anniversary party revelation. There are photos of both families, including side-by-side pictures of Emma and me that someone must have pulled from social media. The reporter quotes anonymous sources close to the families describing the emotional fallout. This is bad, Emma says, scrolling through the article. How did they find out? My phone rings again. Natalie. Have you seen it? She asks without preamble. Just now. How did this happen? Someone at the country club, she says. One of the anniversary guests must have talked. Mom and Dad are losing it. There are reporters outside the house. They're calling it the baby switch scandal. I close my eyes, trying to process this new layer of chaos. Are they okay? Dad's threatening to sue everyone. Mom hasn't stopped crying. They want to know if you've seen it. I haven't spoken to my parents, the people who raised me, in over a week. Our last conversation ended with Dad shouting that I was tearing apart 2 families for no reason, that some truths were better left buried. I'll call them, I say, though the thought makes my stomach clench. After hanging up, I turn to Emma. I need to go see them. I'll drive you, she offers immediately. The media presence is worse than I imagined. 3 news vans are parked across from my parents' house, reporters standing with microphones, cameras pointed at the front door. Emma parks a block away and we walk, heads down, hoping no one recognizes us. We slip in through the back gate. Inside, the house is eerily quiet. Mom sits at the kitchen table, staring blankly at nothing. Dad paces by the window, phone pressed to his ear, arguing with someone about privacy laws and defamation. Mom, I say softly. She looks up, her face crumpling when she sees me. Oh, honey, she whispers. Then her eyes shift to Emma, and she freezes. You brought her here? This affects all of us, I say, taking Emma's hand. We need to figure this out together. Dad ends his call abruptly when he notices us. What is she doing in our house? He demands, pointing at Emma. Dad, stop, I say firmly. Emma is my sister, my twin. The DNA test confirmed it this morning. He flinches at the word confirmed, as if hoping until this moment there might have been some mistake. The hospital called, Mom says, her voice small. They want to meet with all of us. They're conducting an internal investigation. 23 years later, Emma says bitterly. Dad turns on her. You have no right to judge us. You have no idea what it was like. You're right, Emma says, surprisingly calm. I don't know what it was like for you, but I know what it was like to grow up feeling like part of me was missing, to have nightmares about a sister I never knew I had, to visit a grave that was empty. The doorbell rings, followed by insistent knocking. Dad swears under his breath. It's probably more reporters, Mom says, wiping her eyes. They've been coming all morning. No, says a voice from the hallway. It's me. Natalie walks in, looking exhausted. She stops short when she sees Emma and me standing side by side. Wow, she says, that's still freaky. She comes to stand beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder. The gesture is small but significant. She's choosing sides, and she's choosing mine. My parents called, Emma says. The Collins family lawyer thinks we should issue a joint statement. Control the narrative before this gets even more out of hand. We're not making any statements, Dad says firmly. Dad, Natalie interjects. This is already public. The hospital is investigating. You can't just pretend it's not happening. Your father and I need to speak with our own lawyer first, Mom says, finding her voice. We could be facing serious charges. My parents decided not to press charges, Emma says quietly. They're angry, furious actually, but they don't want to put everyone through a criminal trial. They just want the truth to come out. Dad sinks into a chair, suddenly looking every one of his 65 years. The truth, he repeats hollowly. The truth is, we made a terrible mistake. We thought we were doing the right thing, sparing everyone more pain, and then it just got away from us. The jokes, I say, the question that's been burning inside me for weeks. Why did you make it into a joke? Mom and Dad exchange a look, some silent communication passing between them. It started as deflection, Mom admits. When people would comment on how you didn't look like either of us, or when you'd do something so different from what we expected, the jokes were easier than the fear. Fear of what? I ask. That you'd find out, Dad says simply. That we'd lose you. That we'd go to jail. Pick one. But then it became something else, Mom continues. A way of, I don't know, processing our guilt maybe? Like if we could laugh about it. It wasn't this terrible secret destroying us from the inside. It was destroying me, I say, my voice breaking. Every time you joked about me not being yours, I felt like I didn't belong. You did belong, Mom insists, tears streaming down her face. You've always belonged with us. We handled it all wrong. So wrong. The room falls silent. Outside, I can hear reporters calling questions to anyone approaching the house. What happens now? Natalie finally asks. We meet with the Collins family, I say decisively. All of us. We figure out how to move forward together. Together? Dad looks skeptical. Yes, together, I say firmly. Because like it or not, we're all connected now. 2 families, 1 daughter. We need to find a way to make peace with that. 2 weeks later, both families gather at a neutral location, a private room at a restaurant closed for the occasion. The media frenzy has died down somewhat, though our story has spread far beyond Ridgeview, picked up by national outlets fascinated by the twin switch drama. We sit around a large table, my parents, Natalie, the Collins family, Emma, and me. The tension is palpable, but there's something else too, a fragile hope that perhaps we can find our way through this impossible situation. I want to thank you all for coming, I begin, having volunteered to facilitate this meeting. I know this isn't easy for anyone. That's an understatement, Michael mutters, but Diana places a calming hand on his arm. We've all been living with lies for 23 years, I continue. Some knew the truth and kept it hidden. Others had the truth kept from them. But now we all know, and we have to decide what what happens next. We want a relationship with you, Diana says, looking directly at me. We've missed 23 years of your life. We don't want to miss any more. And we don't want to lose you, Mom says, her voice small but determined. We raised you. We love you. You don't have to choose, Emma says, squeezing my hand under the table. You can have both families. I certainly want both sisters. She smiles at Natalie, who returns it hesitantly. Their relationship is new and awkward, neither quite sure how to define what they are to each other. I've been thinking about those jokes, I say, looking at my parents, the people who raised me, about not being your real child, and I realize something. They hurt so much because I wanted so badly to be yours, to belong to you. Mom starts crying again, and Dad puts his arm around her shoulders. But the truth is, I continue, I do belong to you, and I belong to the Collins family too. I'm the bridge between these two families, and I don't want to break either connection. So what are you suggesting? Michael asks. That we try, I say simply. That we acknowledge the past but focus on the future. That we give each other grace for mistakes made out of fear and love and grief. That we become, in some strange way, one extended family. It sounds idealistic, perhaps even naive, but as I look around the table, I see cautious nods, tentative acceptance. It won't be easy, Diana warns. Nothing about this has been easy. I agree, but I think it's worth trying. As we leave the restaurant later that evening, Emma links her arm through mine. So, bridge between two families. How does it feel to have double the parents and double the siblings? I laugh. The sound lighter than it's been in months. Complicated, messy, but also right, somehow. And it does feel right. The jokes about not being their real child weren't just deflection or guilt. They were premonitions of a truth that couldn't stay buried forever. A truth that has shattered and rebuilt my understanding of family, of belonging, of identity. I am both a Collins and a my last name, both and neither, and something new entirely. And for the first time in my life, that feels like enough.